defying is De Lee. He's relatively isolated. I cannot spot another rider from Lotto Soudal in that front group. And bearing in mind the amount of riding they've done, no, he's not. There's no other riders from his side. There's one right at the back there. Two, in fact, because that little group, I think, with Victor Campenaerts has managed to sew itself together. But De Lee, seemingly, Connor, is happy to try and go on the offensive himself here, or at least make it difficult for everybody else.
Yeah, he's really riding out of his skin. I mean, he's almost taking the initiative, isn't he? And just going for it and trying not to be caught out by anyone and just putting himself in the front, so that he's kind of saying, if you want to go, then you have to come across to me, and he's going to be there regardless. So real show of strength by him. I think it's almost better to ride like this, because when it's so lined out, as we see, if we look behind, I mean, you don't want to be caught out back there. You're just wasting so much energy, and the gaps are starting. It just takes one person to drop the wheel and you're done for. So it's almost better to stay at the front and keep yourself out of danger, as we see Alex Kirsch again for Trek Segafredo, forcing the pace with De Lee right on his wheel.
Yeah, well, De Lee, as you said, clearly got very, very good legs. Clearly rides well in these conditions. Sat on the wheel of Alex Kirsch, and then we're going to see an attack on the right-hand side. That's definitely the figure of Conor Swift, the former British road race champion for Arkea Samsic. But immediately on his wheel is Ed Turns. Ed Turns is there, also on the wheel. It looks as if it's Lawrence Nassen as well. And now we're looking at the figure there. Oh, a flat tyre, unfortunately, for Greg Van Avermaet. That is very, very unfortunate for the former Olympic road race champion. A critical time, and that is very, very disappointing for him.
Oh, you'd be gutted, wouldn't you? That's just the worst moment of a puncture. 10k to go, and with groups all over the road, I mean, you're not getting back into the action. You're going to get back into a group, but it's too late, you know, to find your way back. And just like I said, a bit of trouble.
He couldn't even take his wheel out. That was neutral service. He didn't even have the Allen key to take his rear wheel out. That is bitterly disappointing for Van Avermaet. He was in that front group, was a relatively big front group, but I think with only 9.5 kilometres to go now, it is going to be difficult from the man from AG2R Citroën to get back in contact. But that's the very nature of racing, but never good to see. So we're now the final 9 kilometres of this edition of the FamennArdenneClassic. Nine kilometres to go. A flick of the elbow there from Lionel Terminot of Belgium. One rider has managed to clip off, and that's a rider from Cofidis. Can't quite identify him just yet, but he's been brought back to heel pretty quickly. Ed Turns on the front here, bringing back the man from Cofidis. 8.8 Ks to go. No one team controlling things at all here. This is going to be a fascinating finale, but things have just lulled. So the group, Connor, has swelled a little bit, and I think there's some key men that have got back in contact now.
Yeah, definitely. The group has swelled, hasn't it? Things managed to come back together a little bit on that descent, but I'm almost watching this and I'm just waiting for one rider to put in a really decisive attack and get that gap. Because over these last few kilometres, we've just seen attack after attack, and I'm sure there's plenty of tired bodies in the peloton there, especially after things, you know, breaking and coming back together, and you see this lull. It's the perfect moment for an attack, so I'm just waiting really for someone to launch one.
I think you're right. I think you're... Yep, there's the first one on the right-hand side. It looks like it's Daniel Oss, actually. Yeah, Daniel Oss, the tall and a rangy rider from Total Energies. That's either Oss or Van Gestel, actually, the Belgian. But that little move hasn't snapped the elastic at all. What it's essentially doing right now is just bringing this group along, carrying this group, that racing momentum. In fact, at the back there, I think that is Anthony Telgi or Nicky Turks. So Total Energies have good representation. 7.7 kilometres to go now. And I'm wondering who the rider is from Bolton Equities. Is that Aaron Gate? Because so many riders here have their gilets still on their capes. Difficult to pick out the numbers, but it does look like it might be Aaron Gate in the mix there.
Yeah, that's Aaron Gate for sure. I can recognise his style. I've ridden with him enough times to know it's Gatey. So, yeah, Commonwealth Games World gold medalist this year, and he's still in the action. Solid sprint, so he's obviously riding well, and he's marking these moves. So I think if you see Gatey get away in a little group here, he could definitely take the win.
Sepp Van Mark goes over the top. So Van Mark goes, immediately brought to heel, but this should open things up for somebody else to go straight over the top. The Belgian swings over to the left-hand side. Nobody wanted to give a rider of such class any leeway at all, any sort of gap. he always remains a big threat. So briefly, hostilities have settled down. Now remember, we've still got that long drag. It's about a 1,500 metre long drag. I can just see also a significant rider there for Arkea Samsic, Hugo Hofstetter. They've got such good sprinters, Arkea Samsic. Watch out for Capio and Hofstetter. Difficult to understand which will be the leader. I think in conditions like this, and given this selection, they might just have to agree between themselves and have a conversation, just get a sense of who's got good legs. And that's what, those conversations will happen at this point in the race, won't they?
Yeah, definitely. I think there'll be a plan made now with the riders they've got available to them, see who survived, who's feeling good, who's managed to get themselves in this front group here, and then it will be a case of deciding, where we're going to place those resources, who we're going to ride for, if we're potentially going to let two riders, go for the sprint. But hats off to Lotto Soudal. I mean, that was a really tricky moment in the race there. Deli had to cover a few moves himself, yet still he's managed to get two more teammates back up there to the front with him and control things. As we just hit this final drag up to the finish, we descend down into the town. We've seen it on each lap that this has been a really tricky point, and riders have been put under difficulties. Connor Swift moves up there with pace on the right-hand side.
Yep, Swift looking good. Looking at Tim Merlier just on the inside there, slightly obscured. There he is. In that wonderful Belgian champions kit. He's looking good, and he's been riding very cagey. Hasn't followed any of these moves, and that is, you can just see Aaron Gate on the left-hand side moving up kindly. There he is, with the black overshoes, black helmet, and that fluo yellow kit with the blue sleeves, just emptying his nostrils there. So watch out for him. He is a potent threat. He really is. And there's an attack on the left, on the right-hand side from Tergis. Tergis goes up this big drag, winds up the gear, and has opened up daylight immediately. Takes a glance round, and the Frenchman is clear. Good move here by Tergis.
Yeah, another solid attack. We saw him go clear on the Côte d'Ivoire, and he did a similar move, but this is a much closer distance to the finish, so if this one pays off, it is a really serious attack. Good moment to go. Lotto Soudal, they've done well to get themselves to the front, but they're definitely starting to lack a bit of firepower. They're starting to lack a bit of energy, and these attacks are looking increasingly successful. They've been attacked all the way into the finish here. Stan de Wolf, Rage Touar, just trying to close this move to Anthony Tergis, and if you can get across these two riders at the front, it'll prove quite difficult to bring back, Matt.
Yeah, definitely. If you can get over the top of this drag, it then drops down. So Tergis, he's got a gap of just 3 or 4 seconds, 5 or 6 seconds maximum, as another attack goes on the right-hand side. This is another big move. Good attack there again. This is Goldstein again. So Goldstein's riding well, attacked on the final ascent of the Côte d'Ivoire, and is gone straight past Stan de Wolf. So Goldstein riding exceptionally strongly, but what he's doing for Lotto Soudal is giving them that little bit of a stepping stone. It's always nice to have somebody in the middle just to work towards, but Tergis glances around, centre of the road, out of the saddle again. It almost looks like he was starting to cramp up there. He really started to slow as we look at Sepp van Mark. His face, well, it's a classic Belgian visage, isn't it? That is Belgian toothpaste, I think everybody's got in their mouths at the moment. It's good riding here by Goldstein, straight past the man from France. And Tergis struggling to get onto one. It's an impressive ride by the Israeli rider here.
Yeah, he's riding really strongly, actually. Solid attack there. Brilliant move by him, Goldstein. And he just needs to do all he can now to try and stay away over the top of this climb, because we've seen it each lap. Descent down into town. It's quite technical. It's quite narrow. It's lined the peloton out on occasion, so if you can get into those few corners, that little part of the finishing part of this race, then you can definitely stand a chance of staying away.
Now this is Florian Vermeesch on the back, of course a runner-up in Paris-Roubaix previously, and on his in front of him, the winner of Paris-Roubaix in the form of Niki Terpstra. Now these two riders started to move clear. This is very interesting. 4 kilometres to go, and a big attack on the right-hand side by one of the Sport Vlaanderen riders. Again, his number slightly obscured, can't ID him just yet, but under 4 kilometres to go. They're over the top of that long drag. Then they essentially go into a bowl, and it climbs up for the last kilometre. So fast-moving bunch now. Goldstein still on the front, and tucked into his slipstream from France is Anthony Tergis, but it does look like this might all come back together again here, Connor.
It's really hanging into the balance, isn't it? Lotto Soudal, they've lost a rider. There's no one quite chasing. It's just attacks flying Arkea Samsic now trying to bring things together. As we said before, they have a few sprinters here. They have Hofstede, they have the likes of Connor Swift hanging in the balance map.
Just over 3 kilometres to go now in the FamennArdenneClassic. Classic Belgian weather, and we have 2 riders dangling off the front now in the closing kilometres of what has been an intriguing race so far. Omar Goldstein is the man in second position, but the man just on the front there from Total Energy, the runner-up this year in Milan-San Remo, is Anthony Telgi, but they only have a slender lead as the road starts to descend before it picks up again into the finish. We've still got to go through a very technical town centre in Marche in Famenne, but at the moment they are rocketing down this descent. A brief little bit of respite, and the 2 riders that were in front are about to be caught, and it is Arkea Samsic now shutting down the gaps, Connor.
Yeah, it looks like it's all coming together on this descent. There's going to be some nervous moments in this group as we go through town. Such a narrow little section as you descend down this bit, and then you go through the high street of the town, and yeah, everyone's trying to position themselves at the front here. It's going to be really key, because if you get caught out now, then you're really going to hamper your chances. Rory Townsend, Irish national champion, is still in the mix there, just on the right-hand side, went out of our shot.
Well, this is where great to see him in the mix. There he is, just on the inside there, clearly identifiable. That's a jersey you know very, very well. This is that technical section now, 1,700 metres to go. The road narrows, that pinch point through the roundabout, underneath the bridge, and then we go through the town centre with those different changing surfaces, go through the Flamme Rouge, then take a technical right, and then it's 700 metres, and they can see the line a long way off, and it is at the front. At the moment, it is Alex Kirsch. They'll be looking after Ed Turns, who is in that group. Arkea Samsic also riding hard. It looks like they might be protecting Amaury Capio at the moment. And also in the mix on the right-hand side there, coming through to the front, is Jasper de Boist looking after Arnaud. Here's that little right-hander into the town. At the moment, it's advantage Lotto Soudal.
Yep, they've ridden a perfect race. They've managed to get things still together in this closing kilometre. I'm not sure how they've done that, because the attacks have been absolutely flying. Rider from Trek just gets caught out on the pavement there on the right. Edward Toons is up there. He's got the sprint. He can win this sort of race. Tim Merlier nicely positioned in around 6th or 7th wheel. Belgium national champion. He's right where he needs to be. He's hung on over these climbs. Trek Segafredo, they've obviously changed tactics to work for Edward Toons, and that has helped keep things together. We see a crash go down. Oh.
I'm not too sure who that is. Straight back on the bike. That was very quick, almost cyclocross style. I'm not too sure which rider that was. Whether it was Arnaud or one of his teammates. I can't tell from here. But Jasper de Boist is on the front. Well, I've never seen somebody crash and dismount with such elegance in my life. What a fascinating crash there. I'm not too sure who it was, but at the moment it is Arkea Samsic on the front. We've got 400 metres to go, and they're starting to wind things up for the sprint now. I think Lotto should have actually lost their sprinter now, so Hugo Hofstetter is in the mix now, but winding things up on the front is Pierre Goprat of AG2R. This is going to be a fascinating sprint. A couple of bits of bumping and barging there as Tim Merlier opens things up on the right-hand side. Connor Swift is in the centre here, and it's Ed Turns on the right-hand side. Who's going to take this one? It's difficult to see. Oh, this is going to be a fascinating sprint to the line. Looks like it is Arkea Samsic in the centre. Well, this is a traction on the right-hand side. Oh, it is. It looks like Zongler's going to take it. It looks like Axel Zingle took it on the right-hand side. At the very last, the man from Cofidis emerged from the melee to take the win. What an absolutely superb sprint that was by the Frenchman.
Oh my goodness, I need to recover myself after that. What a finish.
There was a lot going on there.
What a win by this man. That was some sprint to the end.
Indeed, Axel Zingle, was indeed the winner, but he came from nowhere but timed it to perfection. It was difficult to unpick that sprint. There was so much going on. It was almost, Connor, a sprint in slow motion, but this man quite clearly did it the quickest for his 3rd win of the season.
Mighty impressive, mighty impressive. He kept a cool head there with all the attacks going, and it came together for him in the end. Axel Zingle, what a sprint. It looked like they all kind of misjudged where the finish line was. It looked like they all went kind of 100 metres too early, and everyone kind of started a sprint again.